Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is? Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And for those of you who like these type of videos, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button and the little bell next to it to ring my bell, baby. But today we're going to discuss Brian Shaw's Dexa scan and the fact that he acted really shocked, and a lot of his followers acted shocked at what his body fat came back as. And I'm not even sure what happened with his original, because he was upset that there was major discrepancies between the one that was done at the Arnold versus the one in a real clinical setting. Again, at a hospital on a bigger table and everything. And I don't know what will happen at the Arnold one, but one of the things he did, I think that was pointed out, is that they weren't fasted for that, which does matter. I'm someone who did multiple DEXA scans last year. And let's be honest here, guys. The first time most of you get a DEXA scan, people are really shocked at what their body fat comes back as. Because this is the difference between an actual scan that scans your body internally versus like the skin fold measurements. People who do the skin fold measurements always come back much leaner than what the scan determines that they are. And I think what people need to remember is that because a lot of people's lifestyles who may be dieted down leaner, who maybe bulked up or ate a lot of junk food at a certain point, or didn't have the best lifestyle as far as that goes, I think you'd be surprised that they oftentimes have a lot more internal fat in their organs that, again, skin folds don't always pick up. And that matters a lot. That matters tremendously because, again, the skin folds usually just tell you how thick it is under your skin, but for a lot of people, they carry a lot of fat around their organs, and particularly a lot of bodybuilder types, people who do more flexible dieting approaches and maybe eat a fair amount of junk and stuff like that. They might look pretty good as far as their subcutaneous fat. They have a lot around their organs, or certain substances they abuse can contribute to that tremendously. But you take someone like Brian, and he actually came back upset, and he's like, I can't believe I'm 25%. And even some of his fans are at that point, and they're going, oh, I can't believe it either. And it's like, are you guys looking at him? I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm not going to be mean about it, but it's very obvious. It is very obvious that in spite of the fact that, yes, Brian has an enormous amount of muscle mass, right? He has an insane amount of muscle mass. But in terms of his actual body fat, he is obviously morbidly obese. You know, he's got fat. You can see visible large amounts of fat on his arms. He has large, significant amounts of fat all over his face, and he has a gut. I mean, the gut alone indicates what? Central adiposity, right? Central adiposity. And that tells us a lot about his lifestyle. And that's one of my concerns with the whole strongman thing, is the same concerns I would have with super heavyweight powerlifting. You know, because this comes up all the time. People have this image of powerlifters as fat. And these are people who've obviously never been to a powerlifting meet. Because realistically, if you think of powerlifters, you have a big belly versus powerlifters with a six-pack. The powerlifters with the six-pack outnumber the guys with the belly, right? They're in the majority if you were to compare the two. They're way vastly in the other direction, but people don't think that way, do they? Because they see the guys get highlighted for the super heavy lifts who are the really big heavyweights. But they don't understand that it's like powerlifting, for example, is a weight class sport. The vast majority of people aren't in the 275, the 308, the super heavyweight. Those big classes represent a little tiny sliver of the sport. People who compete in the 181 and the 165, for example, way outnumber those. Right? They way outnumber those. I can tell you right now, anybody deadlifting 500 plus pounds in those weight classes is probably fairly lean. They're not carrying much body fat. Right? You can't. You can't. Because then you wouldn't have enough muscle to be in that weight class and still be strong. So, you know, you see that, and the problem is something like strongman, and that's one reason people are like, why don't you cover the world's strongest man stuff that often? Because I don't think it's fitness, and I don't think it's healthy. I think it's bad for you. It's an unhealthy endeavor. Just like I tell people, you know, I'm not a big fan of the whole pro bodybuilding, or bodybuilding in general. I think it's unhealthy. It's not fitness. The world's strongest man is not fitness, and I'm not saying strongman isn't, because most guys in strongman aren't going and competing at the world's strongest man, right? They have weight classes. They have weight classes. And I know some dudes who are legitimately fit, legitimately athletic, lean, muscular, jacked dudes who compete in strongman. But they can't go hang with these 400-pound guys. They can't go do it with them. And I think that's kind of the point, is that strongman kind of pushed in the direction of it. It went away from athleticism and back towards just size, just mashing your way through a lot of the events that they do. And, therefore it's allowed these guys to get fluffier. But here's what we have happen, and I think the guy, and I can't remember his name, this guy who just started dominating again recently, he's a lot leaner and a lot more athletic than these other guys, right? These guys all have to start trimming down. But it's the point we come over to is, again, that shock of him saying, oh man, I can't believe I'm 25%, I lost a bunch of weight or whatever he's done. But we come over to the point with that. And you probably lost a lot of lean tissue, because if you're still eating a bad diet, a lot of times these guys are like, I've lost weight, right? Well, how did they lose weight? How did they lose weight? A lot of them are still on really high calories. Maybe they cut back the stuff they're putting into their body. Well, you're just losing lean tissue, because realistically, anyone who's ever done gear knows that if you come off gear and you start shrinking, what happens? Most guys, when they come off, they gain a little bit of body fat. Even if they lose 20 pounds of body weight, some of them gain a little bit of fat due to the shift in hormones. So these guys are just downsizing, but they may not be getting leaner. Their body composition might be getting worse. And you've got to take the fact of, you guys need to understand how much fluff that is. If you're 412 pounds at 25% body fat, let's think about that from a health perspective. People say, yeah, but that's 25%. That's not terrible. It's outside the healthy range. But what would that person be if they lost 50 or 60 pounds of lean tissue? Right? The only reason someone like Brian is only at 25% is because he has so much muscle. Think about his same frame, right? So you take him, he's 412 pounds, and I think he came back at 25.2. That's 103 pounds of fat. What would happen if he only weighed 350? Right? 103.8 pounds of fat divided by 350, 29.7. He'd basically be 30% body fat if his lean tissue dropped down 50 pounds. If he lost 50 pounds of lean tissue or 60 pounds of lean tissue, he would still be big. He would have a lot of muscle, way more muscle than his frame could probably support completely clean. Right? He'd still be a behemoth, but then he'd be 30% body fat. So essentially, some of these strongman competitors are basically just really morbidly obese guys with a lot of muscle. And the problem we have with that is that you need to think about that in terms of a healthy lifestyle. Think about how many calories these guys are burning a day. Do you understand how much junk food they're putting into their bodies to get to the fat that some of these guys are at? So, if we're going to talk about health and fitness and lifestyle, what does their lifestyles look like to be there? Because we know what a sedentary person has to do to get to 100 pounds of body fat. They have to eat, the amount of garbage they have to eat is mind-boggling. What about a person who's put on 100 pounds of muscle tissue and trains every day? They have to eat even more. What are these guys eating? Are they just sitting around eating pizza and ice cream and drinking 3 liters of soda every day? How are they getting their body fat that high? Like, what garbage are they eating? And the worst part is it even helping them? Because you just had a leaner guy walk in and start kicking their butts who has less body fat. Because he's more athletic. It's like, come on, guys, get your stuff together. That's my concern with a lot of this, man. I'm really concerned with the lifestyle involved with some of this. And, I catch a lot of flack for saying that, hey, bodybuilding's an unhealthy lifestyle. Why don't you hit on the strength sports? It's like, well, okay, here you go. This is unhealthy, guys. I don't think that we should be highlighting this. And that's one reason I don't cover strongman that often. The same reason I don't want to cover pro bodybuilding. Guys, we need to be putting up people who are fit and athletic and healthy and living a true fitness lifestyle. I'm not saying we can't take elite athletes and use them for motivation, because we should. There's nothing wrong with being an elite athlete. But there are different levels of risk. And when we go to this point to where you have endeavors like this, to where the elite athlete is putting 100 pounds of fat onto their body, having over 100 pounds of fat on your body, all right, that's unacceptable. That's not fitness. And the thing that blows my mind is that he actually thinks that he's not 25%. A lot of his fans, like, he's not. It's like, guys, he is. He absolutely is. I mean, it's blaringly obvious. You can't have a belly that sticks out 6 inches past your chest and think that you're 20% body fat. You just can't. You just can't, guys. That's not how it works. I think that Dexa scan was pretty accurate. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.